Harry has reached for the coffee. That must be my cue. Good morning, Grace United Methodist Church at Hartwood.
Good morning.
Hey, you know what day this is? Yeah, it's the day the Lord has made. It's also the day that Congress gives you back something they took from you. There's only one day a year that happens. This is it. Yeah, it may be the last time it's gonna happen. Where, you know, I have long prayed for the day that they just quit monkeying. I don't care which time it is, just leave it alone. But I don't know. Somehow it's kind of fitting that Congress thinks they even need to mess with the clock. We'll pray for it. We'll pray for it. It is also All Saints Day, and I'm doing a sermon introduction today. That's all. You all get to do the sermon. You all get to remember the saints and call out the ones who have lit your path along the way. So I hope you prepare your hearts for that. Let's see, what do we got coming up? We've got a Methodist Women's meeting tomorrow, yes? And all kinds of, you give me a Methodist women's group and a place to stand, I can move the world. So be watching for that. We got some flags put out yesterday. Missed having Bill there to direct us, but it's always a joy to see the flags out for these patriotic holidays. Of course, next Sunday will be Veterans Sunday. What else is going on? Any other announcements? Yes, Wanda?
We're doing the Thanksgiving baskets for the schools. And if you can, all the schools have these bags, put them in these bags. We're doing this in the boxes. And everything we need is in the Grace place. And the 20th, we need everything back that Sunday before Thanksgiving.
All right. What's the Grace place?
I'm sorry. How many am I doing? I only heard from 2 schools. 3's got to call me back. So I'm thinking probably 20 or 30.
Excellent work. Thank you. Anything else? So I invite you to prepare your hearts to worship the Lord. Our first hymn is 322, and we'll stand as you're able to have our opening prayer together. Almighty God, you have knit together your people in one communion and fellowship in the mystical body of our Son, Christ our Lord. Grant us grace so to follow your blessed saints, that we may come to know the inexpressible joys that you have prepared for those who truly love you. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. Amen. First thing is number 322. Christ the Lord is risen. Up to the grave, up for sending. Oh. Jesus, my Savior, preaching the coming day. Jesus, my Lord, from the grave arose, in my age I am born. He arose of victor from the dark to reign, and he lives forever in the saints to reign. He arose, hallelujah, Christ the Lord. Great,
morning. Good morning. Our responsive reading can be found in the bulletin. Wisdom of Scripture, Solomon 3. The souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and no torment will ever touch them.
The eyes of the foolish may seem to have died, and their departure was thought to be a disaster.
And they go from us to be their destruction, but they are at peace.
Those lying on the their hope is full of immortality.
Having been disciplined a little, they will receive great good, because God tested them and found them worthy of himself.
Like gold in the furnace, he tried them, and like a sacrificial burnt offering, he accepted them.
Our reading is from the New Testament, Hebrews 12:1-3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance that race marked for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah, what she said. At this time, we'll call the ushers to come and wait on you, that we might worship God with this tithes and our offering. Let's pray. All things come of thee, O God, and unto thee we freely give. Bless our hands, bless our hearts, and bless our memories as we give. Amen. This is All Saints Day. We celebrate the saints today, although we do affirm that the church is primarily a hospital for sinners, not a country club for saints. Take a moment to greet somebody who looks like a saint and somebody who looks like they've been hospitalized.
Hi, guys.
I don't know which one I am.
No, I'm debating that too.
You cubby dwellers?
We don't know which one. We don't know which one we are. Are we the saints or are we the hospital?
Yeah. I'm going for, Sims and Fuse. That's what I'm going for.
Christmas season in the world. It starts at Labor Day and goes all the way through to Epiphany.
Next Labor Day.
Yes.
So they coming home for Christmas is a big deal in the Philippines. They got pretty serious Easter celebrations too. Coming home for Easter is a big deal in the Philippines. But if you only get to come home one time a year to the Philippines, it's gonna be All Saints Day. All Saints Day in the Philippines is not one day, but two. It's a camping out event, and Church is gonna share some memories and what the All Saints Day means to her in the Philippines.
Oh, I'm not prepared.
You didn't know you were gonna do that, did you?
Okay.
I told David to tell you.
Oh, no, I don't have anything. I'm not prepared, but it's okay. I can share my experience.
Sure.
It's a national holiday. Everything is closed. We start camping in the cemetery October 31st afternoon, all night long up to all, Halloween night, All Saints Day, and All Souls Day. So up to November 2nd, we camp in the cemetery. And lot of fresh flowers and candles and parties. We have music and everything. So, and we bring food. Sometimes you can bring small stove and cook some food in there. Yeah. It's just to celebrate their lives. That is our main. And make sure that you have all these candles and flowers for your family that you lost. It's just to remember them. And once we are camping in there and eating, we talk about them. We talk about them. Okay, so what happened to you with your mom and your dad when you were young? We talk about the jokes and laughing and singing is the tradition that I cannot forget. That even I'm American citizen, I still need to follow that tradition. Even I'm here in the United States, I cannot go home on All Saints Day. I still pray at home, have flowers and candles with a picture of my departed family members. So it's huge for us. It's really big that we really need to respect them and that, because you love all these family members that you love. So remembering them and talk about them, it's huge. It's a big deal for us.
Thank you, Virgie. I hope one day I get to celebrate All Saints Day like a Filipino does. It's really they take their festival seriously there.
Very sweet.
Like I said, the Christmas holiday season is the longest in the world. I'm not sure I want to go to the Philippines for Easter, honestly, because they actually have people who literally get nailed to crosses for it. That's one notch too far for me. I feel like I'm suffering enough anytime I put on this robe. I know some of y'all think it looks nice. This thing is hot. It has been hot ever since I first put it on 40 years ago, and it's not gotten any easier to take. I'm standing here sweating, and you don't even need to know that. I know. but when you look at me and go, how come Pastor doesn't wear that robe very? That's why. That's why. I just feel like it's hard for me to be cool about Jesus when I'm standing here thinking how hot I am. So that's something else for you to celebrate. You don't have to wear a clerical robe today. What else is on your heart? Any joys, any concerns to share?
So I also want to share, last Sunday I'm not here, so I don't know about your service or what is the scripture and everything. But my dad's aunt just passed away and 110 years old. And before she passed away, 2 hours before she passed away, she's smiling and talking. Before she passed away, she said,
my husband is calling me and waiting me, come here, come with me, come with me. And she passed after 2 hours. So, and I heard that your sermon that Sunday, that's a talk, really? So I just want to share that. I don't know if, I'm shocked, I'm really, her husband's calling her and waiting on her.
We're seeing that transition with Barbara's mom. She got roots from at the home a couple of weeks ago and was actively trying to hitchhike in the lobby, trying to see if anybody would give her a ride. And she wanted to go back home to her mom and dad's house. That's partly confusion, but it's partly this visitation that we're talking about. There's kind of a blurred line there where the confusion leads off and the visitation starts. So watch for those things. You don't have to be at the end of life to hear from. Any other prayer concerns of Joyce to lift up?
I'd like to follow up again. She had a fall 2 weeks ago with her back of her head, but she fell again Tuesday, and we were praying to push the button, but apparently she didn't get the message. So she fell in her room and broke the neck to the wall on top of the femur. And she had surgery Wednesday night, and she's right now in the hospital. We'll go to Falls Run as soon as the insurance says it's okay to go there. And I will also add that I remember when she first had that experience, she was talking to her mother and wondering if I would meet her that night, that she was visiting her. And so there's, again, not waiting to death, but I have visitors that support you and love you, you know, care. Yeah, so she had that vision.
Amen. Thank you for that, David. Bill Swarns is also at Falls Run. And Janet is going down today. As far as we know, he's cleared for visitors beyond. So keep Bill in your prayers. Any others?
Going to have James on this weekend celebrating his 22nd.
Absolutely. James was here helping us poke holes in the ground yesterday. Speaking of that, we need to pray for Mike Kerr's memory. It's fading.
That's the lost cause. Pastor Larry, I also make note that I think Bill was kind of here yesterday too, in the sense that we found about 50 more new flags under all the discarded flags that were used at the end, I think, to get to some of the gravestones. So his presence is there for 50 flags he bought years ago that we discovered yesterday.
All right.
It's my mom's 85th birthday yesterday,
85th birthday.
and she's doing Zoom and video call. She is so good. She can call everybody with a Zoom.
Yeah, that's another thing. I have preached at a few Filipino churches. They take soup seriously. Well, let's go to God together. Lord, we do thank you for this sacred day. We thank you for your presence among us. We thank you for those that you hold now in your arms who are cheering us on. Father, we ask that you would quicken our hearts to see you revealing all things to us right on time. And Lord, we ask for the day when the whole world will at last be at peace, and we'll be able to hear the more clearly that heavenly chorus sing. Until that day, Lord, you know the struggles we face, you know the hardships in this world that you love so dearly. So, Lord, hear us now as we call aloud to you those needs and joys that we feel closest to our hearts today. Lord, in your mercy.
Still mindful of having a few.
Lord, in your mercy. Lord, in your mercy. Lord, in your mercy.
Hear our prayers.
Ben?
Lord, in your mercy.
Hear our prayers.
Lord, in these things and in all things, you teach us how to walk with you more closely as you teach us how to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We've got a special music now. Robert, they were practicing this when I came in, and I told them to stop singing so free because it sets the bar too high. Start practicing. I'm assuming you'll help bring it down.
Yeah.
Actually, if anything, you're gonna let it go.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace like fear prevailed. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior, has ransomed me. And I have won, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me, my word, my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as I endure. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior, has ransomed me. And I have loved His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior, has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. is our tongue. The sun for them shall shine. My love will call me near, will be forever mine. Will be forever mine. You are forever mine.
If they're warning, I'm gonna call them up. But when we get to the end of the service, let's do that. Okay? Let's let you guys can just pick what verses you want to do in the congregation and sing along. Let's do that. This is a rabbit trail. This isn't part of the service. It's just, you get this for free. Thinking about the road, it reminded me, I'm thinking backwards more than I am forward these days. The first time I ever put this on was the day I was ordained. And I was kneeling in front of God and everybody, and the bishop had his hand on my head. These dresses do not come with instruction. And ladies, I didn't know that when you're kneeling in a full-length dress at the altar rail, you can't just rock back on your heels and stand up. You're standing on the dress. And I was shuffling around trying to get off the dress, and I looked like Toulouse Cracker. And also, they don't come with instructions about how to walk upstairs. I have nearly fallen off staircases a couple of times because I forgot to get my skirt. So anytime you see somebody in a clerical robe, pray for them. It's not safe. Now, back to the message. The scriptures today started with the word therefore. And you probably know that any Bible scholar worth their salt will tell you, when you run across the word therefore, you need to know what it's there for. Well, in this case, Hebrews chapter 12 starts with therefore because it's there for Hebrews chapter 11, which is the Hall of Fame of Faith. And it goes through, starting with Genesis and working the way forward, talking about all the great people of faith who ran the good race, but didn't reach their goals, and how they passed on that baton to the present generation to carry. Now, the Hall of Fame of Faith is a wonderful list. It's a great list, but you don't need it. You have your own Hall of Fame of Faith in your life, in your heart, in your mind, in your story. You have those in your life who, like those folks listed in Hebrews chapter 11, did not reach their goals. But they ran the race as far as they could go, and in faith, they passed the baton on to you. They sacrificed. They shared tears and laughter and blood and joy. They laid down all these things so that you could finish the race for them. And it's up to you now whether they sacrificed in vain or not. They're surrounding you in a great cloud of witnesses. I mentioned last week, that's a sports metaphor. We're running the good race, and they are the crowd cheering us on. People love to go to the arenas and cheer on the home team. And part of what makes it exciting is that the reason they have the competition is to find out who's going to win. That outcome is uncertain until you reach the finish line. The crowd of witnesses is cheering you on today, and they're excited to cheer you on because the end has not been written. They don't know if we're going to cross the line victorious or not. They do know that they sacrificed so you could be in this place right now, pressing on that race. This building, and here I'm going to say something blatantly prejudicial, but I don't care. It's what I think. I'm going to stick to it. You all are awesome because you've got to be the only white congregation I've ever seen who had the good sense not to paint this woodwork. So many congregations have beautiful woodwork like this, and it's been painted white, or God help us, 1972 hospital creed. I don't know why in 1972 the whole world had to be painted green, but somehow you all have had the good sense and the grace of God to maintain the beauty of this place, and the wood is alive. But I'm telling you, this sanctuary isn't built out of wood and nails. It's built out of faith. It's built out of hope. It was built in the dream that one day you would be here to carry on what they started in this room. And they are cheering you on. Each day you get one step closer to your finish line. And as you draw closer to the finish line, the voices of those cheering for you get a little bit stronger. You can hear them if you listen closely, and I firmly believe they can hear us as we speak, like Virgil was saying. Share their stories as we speak their names, as we remember them today. In the creed, which we'll share in a few moments, we affirm, and we've been affirming ever since the earliest days of the church, that we believe in the communion of the saints. That means that we proclaim that the God who now holds them in his arms is the same God who holds us in his hand, and we can communicate with them. The communion of the saints means we're not cut off from them. Listen closely. If you watch for signs, maybe a butterfly, maybe a bird, maybe a whisper, maybe a familiar smell in an unlikely place. Watch for those signs. Your loved ones will communicate with you. And so today, we are going to share your Hall of Fame of Faith. And we're going to start by remembering those who have passed from this congregation in the past year. Our only member who passed this year was Deborah Bundy Smith. Age 72, she died at home on September 30th. Born in Washington, D.C. to Mary Elizabeth and Willis Henry Bundy. She grew up in D.C. and Waldorf, Maryland, attended college in Colorado, and spent many years serving Jesus as a Christian missionary in Youth with a Mission. She evangelized, counseled, taught biology and Latin to junior high students, and worked as a midwife. She was fearless. At age 44, she married Robert Gerald Smith, proof of her fearlessness. Another YWAM missionary, and they moved overseas. He adopted 2 children, Cynthia Marie and Robert David. Deborah homeschooled them through high school, war proof of fearlessness. In 2002, they left full-time ministry and settled first in Waldorf and then Hartwood, where they built a log house on land her family has owned for many years. She spent 5 years caring for her mother in that house. She's survived by 2 brothers, Stephen and Martin Bundy, her husband Robert, and 2 children, Cynthia and Robert. Would any of you care to speak to Deborah?
And you probably heard my long eulogy on her memorial service. Look it up. I can do the text. Anyway, far more than you want to know about Deborah. The one I never got to think she wanted to do but wasn't able to, like we talked about with the St. Hebrew level. One in particular, there was many. She wanted a horse all her life. We never did that. But she wanted to be an old lady who would be in a rocking chair with, young kids and grandkids around her, and she'd tell them stories. And then when they left, she'd take the Afghan off her lap and go and do adventures for God. And she shared a desire with me a number of times. She talked about this, that when she got old and toward the end of her life, and her family was all either grown or gone, she'd go to Afghanistan and preach the gospel to Muslims there and die as a martyr. I'm kind of glad that one did not come true. But I don't think I'm going to take up that thing. But I hope that myself and think of however our age is going on and doing adventures for God.
Thank you, Robert.
Recognizing the right to ceremony that we take on. So, Miss Deborah, she definitely gave us unity and diversity in the church.
Thank you, Kristen. By the way, I have to tell you, she probably didn't want to have a horse to ride him. She wanted him for the automatic fertilizer.
I miss Deborah's caring smile, lovely smile, the way she greeted you. She always had that.
Oh, Miss Lower, yeah.
Just like she didn't have a care in the world.
And a gleam in her eyes.
Yes.
Smile.
I want to thank Deborah for reaching out to me when my family first attended this church. Aside from Pastor Hank, Deborah was the first person we met.
Yes.
And she reached out to us, and came down and sat down, and we talked for a while, and I'll never forget.
I remember 4-H sessions on how to can and do things. She always was willing to share her knowledge about.
Yeah, with the little people in gardens. I love that.
Yes.
She had it was a circle and it had layers. It could be playing all kind of things right there in that one little spot.
Yes.
One day I had this berry that I couldn't recognize myself. I said, I'm going to take a little trip with them. She said, oh, it's a jewelberry. And I said, she said, it's just like a raspberry. She knew what I wanted.
This candle is in memory and in honor of Deborah. And Robert, we encourage you to take it home and light it on special occasions to remember this day. We also bade farewell to Jeanette Merritt. Thank you. Lost my page. Jeanette was a longtime member of this congregation, but had moved her membership in her last years. And unfortunately, I could find online obituaries for Larry. I could not find any for Jeanette. So I'm counting on you all who knew and loved her to share memories of Jeanette. Wanda, how about you go second on that?
All right, Jeanette was a very close friend of mine, her and Mary. We raised two daughters together. They did a lot of things together. And Mary was on a mission trip at one time when Jeanette was at home, but she never learned to drive, which is unusual, I think, but my mom died and Mary had started for her, and he had to run up there and get it. But I'll miss Jeanette a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else want to speak to Jeanette? Yes,
So like many of us, we tend to pick a spot in the sanctuary and sit. And in front of me was Emmett and Mary Robinson. And then after Larry and Jeanette moved back from Highland County, they would sit in the same row as Emmett and Mary. And what I learned after my eldest stepdaughter came home with grandkids to leave a bad situation, Lucas was a baby. He was 8 weeks old at the time. What I learned was that for Jeanette, kids, small kids, were her kryptonite. And no sooner than we would get in here, and I'd have Lucas tucked under my arm like a sack of potatoes. And between Jeanette and Mary, they were arguing over who was going to hold the baby. I never got to going outside the door there to continue the argument, but it was just it's very warm and refreshing to see somebody that you loved as a Christian, and they just took to your child or your grandchild like it was their own. The love was very evident.
amen. My kids grew up just expecting that they would have a dozen grandparents everywhere they went.
I also remember Larry and Jeanette making maple syrup and selling it here and giving it as gifts. And I came across a container of that the other day as I was kind of cleaning up the cupboards. And I'm enjoying it now, remembering that
Always good to clean out the cupboard.
it's good to clean up the cupboard, especially mine.
I don't know, that's a true labor of love. I think it takes about 100 gallons of sap to make a pint of maple syrup. Boiling that off is a real labor of love. Anyone else want to speak to Jeanette? All right, this is your time. Tell me who the saints are that still like your way and who is cheering you on this morning.
Because I think of my parents a lot, I would think, what would they do, do something, how they do it, so it's kind of like, they're always there, and I'm asking them, what should I do? Like, one of those things, that's their thoughts.
What a great testimony.
I have the same feeling as he does. They come to light when you kind of need them. But I remember one time when I was really young, not even understanding, I think, what Christianity was. My grandmother had a swing on her front porch, singing, "Swing low, sweet chariot." And that comes to mind so many times when I'm stressed, saying that she's with me. I'm in her arms, and she's singing.
Amen. Yes, Mike.
So in the 15 plus or minus years that I've been worshiping here, and on my Christian walk, there's been a lot of our family that have gone to glory. And last weekend I was at service, I was thinking about it, and I could just close my eyes and sanctuary is really full. If you think about those that have gone before you, and these pews are full. They're here. They're supporting all of us. It's really a very satisfying feeling. I don't know that I would want to be here at midnight doing that. Really, it is quite remarkable.
You're right, the pews are full. Barbara and I have been guests, been visitors in many churches through the years. And Barbara has a habit, she always goes straight to the front row because she knows there won't be any Methodists who consider that their seat. So if you don't want to sit on anybody's spirit, Mike, you can always use the front row. Anyone else? Who are the saints who have lit your life?
I think of my mom that way. I was away from church for a long time, and I got my close to my mom past her years. Everything's better than my life. But I look forward to, I don't know how to say it, make my mom proud. She's been consistent with the church. Never, comes every Sunday. And it's testament to me. That's why I should come too. He helps me stay on the straight and narrow because I don't want to get in trouble.
Amen. Thank you for that, folks.
Nancy Colette. Anybody who remembers her, raise your hand. She was so useful and gave us so much live music, which is a gift. And even to the last day, her fingers were, as young as she was born. So it's hard to let somebody like that go. She's led us with music for years and years and years.
Feel the same way about Kevin Mullins, who led our youth, if you remember him. That he was young himself, so he was a great spirit for the kids here at Grace, and just tragically here one day and gone the next.
Especially, I don't mean to step on anybody else's saints, but yesterday, when I was out in the cemetery placing flags, as I've done for years, I kind of stop in front of the gravestone and think how that person may have affected the lives of the people that they helped raise and educate and participated in this church. Just wondering about them. And just stopped in front of it, it just happened to be a Hefner. And of course, I always stop in front of the Courtneys because I take a picture of the Courtney family putting the flag in that grave. But I just wonder how these people, like you said, fill these pews and what they did for this church.
Thank you.
I was thinking the same thing, David, and it made me think that I finally want to get a cemetery tour with Warren. My neighbors were asking me about a lot of those names, and I'm sure you could probably answer that.
Try to start. This congregation has really changed my life, I think. So when I come to the United States, married the American, and I'm still a Filipino citizen, and it takes me a long time to be to accept that citizenship. Is one of the big reasons is I feel like I found a family in this congregation. And to tell you the truth, on the beginning, I'll be honest. When I entered this church, my very first day, I saw everything white American and Deborah, the African American. And I saw no Asian, nothing. So I just knew in United States that time, I'm not American citizen. So, but I have faith in Jesus. I need to go to church because I believe in that. So, but when I saw this congregation full, oh, there's no Asian in here. There's only one African American. Everybody white. It feels hard for me on the beginning. Say, oh, I'm the only one that have an accent. I don't know how to speak English that much. And here you go, it's all white American. It's hard. But the way they welcome me, even, even sometimes I don't understand them, the way they welcome me, I can tell from their face, from their heart, that they really wide open and they welcome me very well. And I feel really good. This is one main reason why one of the reasons I accept the citizenship. One reason I don't want to move in this area. I want to move somewhere else, a small area, but I don't want to move because of the stress.
Amen. Thank you. That's our one. Yes, sir.
I remember Deborah's mom, Mary Bundy. Any of you remember that number here, the black lady? Not so great in your memory anymore, but it wasn't always like that. She World War II, she moved from like Kentucky to DC to work in a typing school during World War II. Rose up in type, who eventually became the executive secretary for like the assistant director of the National Science Foundation. Worked with many scientists and things over years, or incredible organizer, supporter family, like her 2 children. One, her oldest son, Stevie, who had a severe illness as a child and couldn't develop mentally. She founded a whole, organization, Springdale Center, that now is caring for him and many, many other people who can't take care of themselves. Her younger son, Marty, his adopted son, had some trouble with the law, and when he was young and stupid, he's much better now. She sacrificed a lot, I believe. I didn't hear this explicitly, but again, it came through the years. Sacrificed a lot to help him get out of that and deal with that. And like I said before, we lived with her for 4 years in her house, me and my 2 children and my wife, her daughter, and at peace with her daughter in the little house, sharing the same kitchen for 4 years. So think about that. People, if you're a family with that work. And then stay with us 5 years here, we took care of her. Can't get that.
Thank you, Robert. And I know there are folks here who could testify if they felt they could. That if you're out blazing your own path and doing young stupid things, and your grandmother is praying for you, it's time to give up. Those prayers are more powerful than anything you can think. And I know my grandmother, who's long since passed on, still prays for me as well. I invite you to keep all of the saints that are in your heart close to your mind, as I invite you to join with me in this historic confession of faith on the back page of your book. I believe in God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, dead, and buried. The third day he rose from the dead. He ascended into heaven, and stood at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From thence he shall come to judge us with good and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. Amen. So now, brothers and sisters, that which I have received, I deliver to you. Now on the night in which Christ was betrayed, he took bread and broke it, and said, "This is my body, broken for thee. Take and eat." Likewise, likewise also after supper, he took the cup and blessed it, saying, drink from this, all of you, for this is the cup of salvation poured out for you and for many for the remission of sin. As oft as we eat of this bread and drink of this cup, we proclaim his life, his death, and his resurrection, and we proclaim that he is with the saints in glory until he comes again. Let us pray. Lord, we would not presume to come to this thy table trusting in our own righteousness. We are not worthy to gather the crumbs of grace from beneath thy table. Yet we come trusting in your gracious invitation that whosoever will may come. So, Lord, pour out your Spirit on these preachers of bread and wine. Let them be for us the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ, that we might become the body of Christ, redeemed by his blood, transformed and sent into the world. Amen. Amen. Sharon, will you come? Sharon's body of Christ goes into thee, blood of Christ. There is a gluten-free option here, and it's also available for those of you who may wish to take communion out and share it with others. All is prepared as the ushers guide you when you come. Are there yet those who desire to be served? May it be so at the last day. Would you stand with me and praise Steve, would you bring out that beautiful number you did? You had to sing along, go with it.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Grace and taught my heart to fear, and makes my faith believe. How precious is that grace of me! Shall I perfectly need? My chains are gone, I've been set free. I'm not my Savior, has ransomed me. And like the blood, His mercy reigns. Let me know, amazing grace. The Lord has promised to give me His word, my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as I can go. My chains are gone, I've been set free. On my Savior has ransomed me. And like the flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. Shall through His own and show the sun for men to shine. But now, oh, He will be forevermore. Will be forevermore. You are forever.
Go now in the grace and peace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and listen for the saints cheering you on. Amen.
Always leave the camera going.